beast! Ah!
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Not the Bees, the Nicolas Cage filmography podcast. I'm Megs.
I'm Elizabeth.
And this week we watched 2019's A Score to Settle. Nicolas Cage is the only big name that you're going to know from this movie. He plays a man named Frank. He is an ex-gang member, and he spent the last 19 years of his life serving part of a life sentence in prison after a man was brutally beaten to death by a different member of his gang. He's being released early after being diagnosed with something called sporadic fatal insomnia, which will kill him soon. When he exits the jail, he's greeted by his son, Joey, who is now an adult. Joey doesn't have a car, so they have to walk. Eventually, they call a cab, and Frank has the cabbie stop at several places, including the house that he used to live in with his wife before she passed away when Joey was just a boy. He tells Joey to wait in the cab while he sneaks into a shed or some kind of other outbuilding near the house to retrieve a bloodied baseball bat. It's the murder weapon that was used to kill the man all those years ago, and a baseball card for Joey. Frank has a secret plan to enact revenge on the people that caused him to go to jail, but first, he goes to visit an old friend that goes by just his first initial, Q. He was in the gang, but now owns a bar and has a family. His daughter is getting married in just a few days. Q wasn't involved with the murder, so Frank really just uses him for information on finding three guys: Dragon, Tank, and Max. Max was supposed to take care of Joey for Frank while he was inside, but didn't, and Joey is an addict. Q only knows where Dragon and Tank are. He says Max is dead. Frank has money, also. For going to prison, the gang paid him $450,000. He buys him and Joey new suits, nice food, and he even gets Joey a fancy sports car, and secretly also buys a bunch of guns. Then they rent a hotel room, and Frank rents a hooker named Simone. Frank and Simone spend the whole night together. After banging, they drive to a lookout and watch the stars and talk and bang some more. They end up running into a guy, I can't remember what his name is, but he's a pimp. There's a bit of a scuffle. Simone gets scared, but then he takes her home. He tries to invite her on a date to dinner the following day, and she tells him to call the service to arrange another appointment. And then she tells him that her real name is Jennifer. After leaving Jennifer, Frank confronts Dragon first. He owns a massage parlor and is in the middle of using his own services. Dragon tells Frank he doesn't know where Max is hiding. Frank is surprised he's alive. Dragon makes a move, and a fight between them ensues, and Frank loses his gun. Dragon gets the upper hand and runs off. Thwarted, Frank goes back to the hotel, and Joey asks him where he was and tries to make a conversation, including a remark about the pills that the doctor gave him before he left prison. He just wants to know the details of his dad's romp with the hooker, and then he sees Frank's face and wants to know what happened. They argue. Joey discovers that he has this whole arsenal of guns, and they argue because Joey thought he was done with all of them. Why can't his dad just be his dad? And Frank says he's doing all of this for Joey, and gives him shit for being an addict. Joey calls him out for not being a dad and threatens to leave forever if Frank walks out. Frank walks out. He goes to find Tank, who works in a butcher shop. It's his next stop. Tank says that he looks good, and they exchange brief pleasantries that are, they're pleasantries, but they're basic small talk. It's very charged. And Frank holds him at gunpoint during this. Tank says that he may as well get on with it. He's surprised that it took this long for him to get what was coming to him. Frank asks him if he knows where Max is. Tank doesn't. He hasn't seen him since before his stroke. When questioned, he says he doesn't know anything about Max faking his own death. Tank says he knows he owes Frank. He's not sure, but he thinks he heard something about Max's son dumping him in a nursing home sometime back. Frank thanks him and points the gun at him. Tank says he's sorry about everything, and Frank shoots him in the head. Frank goes back to Q's. Q asks what happened to him. Frank tells him, and Q tries to reason with him. Everyone they ran with either died or grew up. Is revenge worth it? Will it change anything? Frank says people are going to die anyways. Q tries again and even invites Frank to his daughter's wedding the next day. Frank says that he'll think about it and leaves. Meanwhile, Dragon finds Tank and cleans him up. Frank goes back to the hotel. Joey is gone. Frank has a bit of an episode with his disease and collapses, but after a brief moment on the floor, he comes to. The maid for his room is leaving, but she doesn't speak English, and she's clearly a little bit freaked out by him. He gets up and looks out the door and asks another hotel staff member to help him. He just got his new phone yesterday. He doesn't know how to work it. It's a smartphone, but he needs to call his son. The guy looks at the phone and sees no numbers in the contacts, no entries in the phone or FaceTime logs. Instead, Frank asks the man to use the phone to make a list of all of the nursing homes in the state, and he'll pay him $500. The man agrees. Frank takes a seat and tells the hotel employee about his disease. There's a knock at the door. A woman calls from outside and says that she's Simone, but it's not the same woman. Frank says he wants Jennifer, but this woman doesn't know her, and Frank doesn't want her. He says he won't pay. The hooker's pimp is waiting outside and forces his way in with a gun when Frank kicks her out. It's the same guy from the beginning before he drops Simone off. He wants the money that Frank would have paid for the hooker. He tells Frank that he scared Simone the night before. Frank refuses to pay, and the pimp makes a threat, but Frank disarms him and shows him the door. The poor kid that just works there has spent this entire time making his list and being terrified. He gives Frank the list and takes his money and runs out the door. Frank's phone rings at that moment, and it's Joey. He says that he's scared. He tells Frank where he is, and Frank goes to find him. It's a drug house. When he gets there, Joey is not breathing. Frank gives him CPR and revives him. He takes Joey and goes back to the hotel. He bathes Joey and feeds him and tucks him into bed. The next day, they go to the cemetery to see Frank's wife. While there, we learn that Joey is also dead. He died some years ago and is buried next to his mother. Frank has been hallucinating him this entire time. Joey tells him to move on. He's done enough and he should enjoy some of his life before it's over. He deserves happiness. Frank promises. Frank goes back to the hotel and packs up all of his cash. He somehow found Jennifer and waits for her in front of her building as she returns from a walk with her son in his stroller. He apologizes for the way that their night ended. He crossed a line. He didn't mean to scare her. He gives her a bouquet of flowers and the rest of his cash. He tells her that it's for her and her son. Her son wakes up and Frank asks him what his name is. He says it's Joey. Frank begins to cry and says, "Of course." He tells them both goodbye as he walks away. Frank drives to the nursing home Max is in. A nurse shows him to the room and says Frank is only the second visitor Max has ever had. Max is in a coma. He has been for 15 of the 19 years that Frank was in prison. Frank takes the baseball bat, the murder weapon Max used to beat their victim to death with, and tells Max that he forgives him. He now knows that if it weren't for the stroke, Max would have made sure that Joey was okay. He places the bat on Max's body under his hands and walks away. On the way out of the facility, he asks the nurse that brought him in who Max's other visitor was, and the nurse says that she can't remember the name, but he was really friendly. He just went by his first initial, Q. Outside, Dragon has followed Frank and is lying in wait for him. He opens fire and a small gunfight ensues where Frank is hit in the stomach, but he gets the advantage and kills Dragon after shooting him in the dick. Frank goes to the church where Q's daughter is getting married. He gets into the bridal suite somehow, and Q makes his way to the suite when he sees some of the bridesmaids hurry out of the hallway. Frank has just Q's daughter in the room with him when Q enters. They have words, and Frank shoots Q in the leg. Q tells Frank he had to kill Joey. He was a liability. He was doing drugs, demanding more drugs and cash, threatening to go to the cops and rat everyone out for everything that they had done. He had no choice. He did what he had to do to take care of the business. Frank hallucinates the murder of his son the entire time while Q recounts the story. Frank says he should have helped, but Q says Frank should have. He was Joey's dad. He died the minute Frank was put away. He says he's sorry. If he could go back and change it, he would. But he has to move forward with what he has and looks to his daughter, who is terrified, behind him, and also holding pressure on Q's gunshot on his leg. Frank drops the weapon and he begins to walk away. Q's daughter picks the gun up and shoots him in the back, but Frank just keeps on walking. The church is now empty, everyone's evacuated, and the cops are surrounding the entrance and tell him to come out and put his hands up, but Frank is fucking tired. He's never been this tired before. He drops his arms and reaches back, seemingly going for his gun, and the cops open fire. As he falls, we see that he was pulling the baseball card from his pocket. Joey shows back up and lays on the steps next to him. He says he wanted to hang out a little while longer, and they look up at the sky as Frank dies. The end. Elizabeth?
Yes, dear.
What did you think of this movie?
I loved this movie. I was enjoying it. I thought it was really well written and well acted and well done. And then the twist happens where you find out that Joey is a hallucination. And I was blown away by that twist. I did not see it coming. I actually had written the note here, getting to know his son was a beautiful story and he fucked it up.
Yeah.
I wrote that when they were having that interaction where Joey is like, if you don't give this up, if you walk out that door, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And he walks out the door. And I wrote the note, he just stole his son's car because he bought that fancy car for Joey, but he's the one getting into it. And like, when you know the twist and you look back over it, there are signs along the way that you could have picked up on. I did not pick up on.
Yeah.
And I really thought it was this beautiful story of this father and son learning to bond after he got out of prison. And it was not. I really liked this. I thought the guy that played Joey was really good.
Yeah, hang on, let me see. His name is Noah something, I believe. Noah Lagos. Yeah, he was inspiring, I think. I think they played off of each other very well.
Yes.
Their relationship, even though it's 19 years since he's seen his father, he was a young boy. We don't know exactly how old he is, but when we see his tombstone at the end, I think it's at 86 to 2005.
Yeah.
So he was 19 when he died, but it would have been after that when his dad was released. They have a fairly easy chemistry with each other.
Yeah.
That really like comes through as a father and son reconnecting, and just both of them non-verbally agreeing to just start over instead of trying to pick up where they left off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a really beautiful story. And then it's more poignant that Joey was dead and was a hallucination. And you can see his reasoning for wanting revenge so much more with that detail added in.
Yeah. 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 And I think when I look at, because I was really thinking about this movie after I watched it, I had very big thoughts about it, just introspection, existential, everything. And I looked up this disease, and it is a prion disease. So it's a folded protein issue. There's no cure for it. There is no treatment for it. It's spontaneous. It can happen to anyone, kind of like aneurysms, but like you cannot sleep. You can't sleep. So like I don't know how long people can survive. I didn't want to look into that because that would have just given me nightmares. But I mean, that's just fucking devastating. But when you think about it that way, when you think about, oh shit, right, he was hallucinating his son the entire time.
Right.
But was his son not also like his conscience telling him your son would have wanted you to have peace?
Yeah.
And your body is making you do this. And it's just it's so tragic. It's beautifully tragic, honestly. This is really like, it's a revenge thriller, but like it's not really a thriller. I wouldn't call it a thriller.
No.
You know,
it's a slow drama.
Yeah, it's a very slow drama, and it's so overwhelmingly sad. It doesn't have, you know, a high rating on the tomato meter. I think it's only like 19%. 16% on the tomato meter. I think the audience score is a little bit higher. I don't recall. I'm surprised because the depth of emotion that this movie evokes is not expected.
No.
And I don't think that the twist of his son being dead was really obvious. I also don't think that it was poorly done.
Right. I think it was really well done. And
Yeah.
it's not obvious, which is why when you look at it in retrospect and you see all of the little clues that they put there along the way,
Mm-hmm.
you can really appreciate them because they're not hitting you over the head with it. They are being very subtle. They're being very meticulous,
Yeah.
and it works out really well.
There is also, and I mean, not to take away from how much we both deeply were moved by this movie, but I am gonna just call it out and count it because there was the first church desecration that we've seen in
I was
months.
I was gonna say. I was gonna say.
Yeah, I
Like,
was.
he goes into the church with that gun and he starts shooting, and like, that's a church desecration, buddy.
I full on had to pause the movie to just experience that for a moment, the giddiness of it, and get myself back into the moment of the climax. Also, and I'm so sorry because I actually misspoke at the top of this episode and said that Nicolas Cage was the only name that you would recognize, but Q was played by Benjamin Bratt,
Yeah.
who is a very well-known actor. I'm so sorry, Ben. That was definitely not on purpose. His performance was
His performance was
welcome.
fantastic, and
Yeah.
after they reveal that Joey is a hallucination, I wrote a note like, is Ben Bratt a hallucination? Like, how much has he been
Literally.
hallucinating?
Yeah, I wrote that note too because like every time they interact, they're just in his bar by
Right.
themselves.
With no one else.
Yeah. And like then also the question is, I don't have a question about Dragon, but was Tank real? Like I'm not sure. And it wasn't like I had to go back and remember like, oh wait, Dragon did go and get Tank. So we know that those two people are at least
Right.
real.
Yeah.
The nurse at the end in the hospital, so Max is real.
Yeah.
Like just it's a bit of a mind fuck, but it's not in the way that something like I don't know, Memento would be.
Right.
You know, like it's a really subtle sort of thing. It leaves more in-depth questions than you had going in, but they're not bad questions.
So what would we rate this movie?
I think I would give it an A, honestly.
I would too. I would too. I was pleasantly surprised. I was not expecting much from this movie from 2019. I the description of it is so placid. Diagnosed with a fatal condition, a mob enforcer leaves prison after 19 years and goes to get revenge against his old gang. That does not inspire confidence. But
no, it really doesn't.
this movie really pleasantly surprised me. I was really enamored of this film.
It's also highly watchable.
What would we give the caginess of it?
Oh, I would give the caginess of it an A.
Yeah.
A plus. I'd give it an A plus. It's I don't want to say it's a plus plus. I think it's an A plus because he is losing his mind in real time on the screen. Because this disorder, this disease doesn't just make you not sleep, it also causes like dementia and very severe physical symptoms like constant sweating, severe weight loss. It's it's more than an A. I wouldn't say that it's an A plus plus. I don't think that the script was that strong. I think the acting, which is another thing that I wanted to bring up, the acting of the whole cast, honestly, was very, very good. I have no complaints about any of the characters, any of the things. I do have a fun fact. The actor that played young Frank, his name is Bailey Coppola. He is Nicolas Cage's nephew.
Oh.
Yeah. Which is why they looked so much alike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty cool. So yeah, I would absolutely give him an A plus for this movie. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts?
No, I agree with you. I think this is a movie that pleasantly surprised both of us and that we would both recommend.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think that's going to do it for us here, folks, for this week. Thank you so much for listening. We absolutely appreciate anybody hanging out that's gotten this far, even if you pick and choose just based on what you've seen, or if you're just looking for something new to watch. We appreciate anyone that's willing to hang out with us. Just as every week, a reminder, we're on all of the same podcasters. We are also now on YouTube at Not the Beast Pod. We're still on socials on Instagram at Not the Beast Pod. And if you're feeling generous, you can also find us on patreon.com/notthebees. But that's going to be it for us this week. I've been Megs.
And I've been Elizabeth.
And we'll see you next time, kids.